It is a great honor and a privilege to introduce Tzvi Herman Steiner. We're here in your beautiful home in Haifa. And Tzvi, you are a survivor born in Ferramonti in Italy. Can you tell us a little bit about your family, your parents, and how they got to this camp in Ferramonti in Italy, and how you came to Israel?
Okay. My parents met in summer of 1940 in Ljubljana. Each one of them came from a different place. My mother came from Germany, from a small town near Leipzig. My father came from Poland, a small town called Teschen on the border between Poland and Czechoslovakia. And each one of them left home when the war broke in September 39, and they made their way in Europe until they came to Ljubljana in today's Slovenia. It was in the summer of 1940. They met there, and after a few weeks, they were with a group of something about 80 refugees from all over Europe, Germans, Poles, Jews and non-Jews, and at a certain stage they had an opportunity to use a train and go to the southern part of Italy. And for them, it looks as if it is the right place to run away from Germany, because to the north it is Germany, and as far as you go south, it must be better. So they took a train with a group of something about 100 or more Jews and non-Jews, and they arrived in Ferramonti. Ferramonti is in the southern part of Italy, and there was in a place called Ferramonti, there was a camp built by Mussolini some month before. There were already some inmates in the camp, and the Jews, my mother and my father and all their friends came to and spent a few months there. It was a very poor place with no food, and they were guarded by Italian soldiers or policemen, but they had to survive by themselves. They got some food from the villages around, and each family or each a couple got a part of the barracks of the place. And there I was born. My father and mother were not married when they came there, but if they wanted to share a room, they had to be married. So it was not respectable to be together without marriage. So they married in Hanukkah 41. December 1941, they were married with a rabbi, and the whole ceremony in a Bet Knesset, in a synagogue, and they were all dressed with the best clothes they had. And I was born a year and a half later in May 1943, My mother went a month, even more than a month before the birth was due. She was sent to a real hospital in the nearest town, Cosenza. Cosenza was supposed to be a big town. There's a hospital with doctors and everything. And there I was born. And after a few days, she came back to Cosenza, and then we stayed there. This was, as I said, May 43, and a few months later, the British and American army came from the south, from Sicily, and the camp of Ferramonti was the first camp which was liberated by the army in the whole of Europe. It was not a concentration camp, but it was a camp where something about 3,000 people were there, and the American and the British army met the people there, and it's okay. And as I heard, because I was a baby then, I understood nothing. But later on, when I was older, and my parents spoke about what happened to them, or how it was in Ferramonti, they said that when the American and the English army opened the gates of Ferramonti and told everybody, you are free to go wherever you want, some of the young men joined the army. Two of my uncles, my mother's brothers, one of them was elder than my mother, the other one was younger. They joined the army, the British army, and they went up to the north. And my mother, with a baby of 4 months, could not leave the place, and they stayed there a few months, although the gates were open, but there was nowhere to go, because if you take a look at the map of Italy, the whole place was very, very poor. No cities, no towns, all of them small villages with very primitive and primitive people, and so they stayed in Ferramonti a few weeks, but then at the beginning of 1944 they left Ferramonti, and they went to a city on the sea of the Adriatic Sea called Bari. They spent them in Bari. They rented an apartment, my mother and my father and myself. My father found a job in the army canteen, because he spoke Polish, and there were also Polish soldiers there, and my mother spoke German and English, so they managed to live there in Bari, and they had an opportunity at that time to go to leave to the United States, or to go to Australia, or to Canada. But my father was a Zionist, and he decided to go to Palestine, and they waited there almost a year until they got a real certificate, and we came to Israel in Pesach, March 1945. We came to Atlit, to the camp and Atlit. I was not so well, so I was sent with my mother to the hospital, to a military hospital in Bat Galim, Haifa, and after that they went to Kiryat Bialik, and this is another story.
Can I ask, we have a picture of your parents with you
Yeah.
in Ferramonti.
This is a picture. Here at the bottom, you can see a picture of, this is my mother, my father. Between them, I look up, and here is one of my uncles, and this is a guy that I do not know. It's something about, I think it's a Shabbat, or maybe some other day. Here the right, upright, I and my father, mother, as a baby. And to the left here, I'm with my mother in Ferramonti.
And Tzvi, can I ask you, did your parents, what did they tell you about the conditions in Ferramonti?
Well, this is about the conditions in Ferramonti. It depends on who tells the story. There were people, in Ferramonti there were something about 1,500 Jews from all over Europe. Young ones, families, old people. They were from Germany, from Poland, from Italy, and from Yugoslavia. All kinds of them speaking all languages. Some of them religious, some of them non-religious, some of them with a background of Zionist youth movements, and there were different people, and different people in a very hard situation, difficult situation, react differently to the same situation. So if you hear now stories about Ferramonti, it is very important to know who tells the story and what was his background. A very important group of the inmates in Ferramonti were the group which came with a Pencho ship boat. They came from Slovenia to the Black Sea and then to the Mediterranean, and their ship, which was supposed to run on the Danube River, was not made for the Mediterranean Sea, and it crashed in October 40 near the beach of Rhodos. And they were on board. There was a group of something about 60 or 70 young members of Beitar youth movement in Slovakia. They had their chief, and they were all very idealistic, and they had the ship was crashed, as I said, near Rhodos. They spent a few months in Rhodos, and then they were moved in the beginning of 41. They came to Ferramonti. The moment they came to Ferramonti, they decided that they have to manage to arrange all the things in Ferramonti. And they did not have any real authority, but they were very energetic, very energetic and very clever young man. And not all the inmates in Ferramonti accepted their authority. So they had some clashes between them. But after a few weeks, everybody saw that the young men of Beitar from the Pencho, they were very serious men, and it was better for all the inmates to calm down and get the authority of those from Ferramonti. In Ferramonti there were, as I said, all kinds of people. The ones that managed their own lives the best were those who had a profession. Craftsmen, like carpenters or doctors or nurses, that many inmates had to get some services from them. So when you hear that everything was okay in Ferramonti, it is almost sure that it was those who gave the services, and they got more food and they got more respect from all the others. And the ones that were more passive and had nothing to give to the community, they were not so happy at Ferramonti. When I was older and I spoke with my father about Ferramonti, I must say he didn't tell anything from his initiative. If I as a boy asked him about Ferramonti, he said, "This is nothing for you. It was our problems. Leave it. It is not your business. It is not your business." But what I remember that I once heard him explain how it was in Ferramonti. He said that in Ferramonti we lacked three things. One of them was food, the other thing was clothes, and the third thing is what freedom to do whatever you wish. And when you do not have all these three things, you are a miserable man. And this is what happens to us. And when we came to Israel, I met as a baby, and we went. My parents got a small apartment in Kiryat Bialik. The neighbors were all from Ferramonti. A group of something, at least 50 or 60 friends from Ferramonti came together, and we all spent our first days in Palestine. It was in 1945. It was in Kiryat Bialik, Kfar Bialik, and my parents' friends were all there, and we, the young boys, heard some stories about Ferramonti, but most of the parents preferred not to speak so much about it, because it was there was nothing good to tell. Even if there were in Ferramonti, there were community life was okay, there were synagogues, they kept the Jewish holidays, Pesach and Rosh Hashanah and everything. They had a choir, an orchestra, and but I think it was the cover-up for the real suffering in Ferramonti, because my father, he died very young in 1975. He was 60 years old, and when he when we lived in Kiryat Bialik, and then in Kiryat Motzkin, and then in Binyamina, when there was enough food and enough clothing and everything, and he was supposed to be happy in his new life, but he was not happy. He was not happy because I think that whenever he had something to eat, he remembered the 4 years in Ferramonti where there was nothing to eat. So this was not easy. This was not easy for him, and he developed a exaggerated respect to food. There was no way in our family not to eat everything, or to throw food was out of question. If my father saw that somebody from the family, I or my brother or my mother, but she didn't do it, but if he caught somebody throwing good food, he was mad, he was angry. And this is the result of the 4 years in Ferramonti.
Can I ask you, what happened to your parents' relatives, to their parents, to their siblings?
Oh, this is a tragedy, because as a grown-up, I came to the conclusion that my mother and father had scruples, nekifot matzpun, this is in English, scruples, because they had to leave their parents and brothers and sisters. You know that in Ferramonti, until 1942, even my mother and my father got letters from their parents in Poland and Germany. I have somewhere postcards from the middle of 1942 sent to them to Ferramonti from Poland or from Germany, but at the end of 1942 the postcards ended, and the conclusion is that they all died.
They were killed.
They were killed, and my parents didn't know anything about it. And this is, I think, that this is the worst tragedy. They had a feeling that they deserted their family. My mother, especially my mother, she left her home when the war started. Something about the end of 1939. She left home. She left her mother and father and her small sister. She was 12 years old. She left them. And I think that my mother, until she died in 2013, when she was 94 years old. I suspect that she, until the last day of her life, she thought that she was responsible, and she made a mistake when she left her family in Germany. She never spoke about it. But I think as a grown-up, I think that this is what she felt. And this is a very sad tragedy.
Did anyone from the family survive?
Yeah. The ones who fled Germany, who left Germany. My mother had a sister, an elder sister, and she went to England. She left with the Kindertransport. She left in 1938 or 1939, and she went to England and she married there, and she lived until 1960 or something. And two of my uncles, my mother's brothers, left with her, and they were in Ferramonti. And I told you before, when the camp was liberated, both of them joined the army and went up north. My elder brother, my elder uncle came back to Germany. He lived in Germany from 1945. He went back to Germany. He wanted to regain the property of the family, but he was very ill, and he died in 1965 from I know shachefet. How is it in English? Shachefet. He was very, very ill. He visited Israel in 1960.
Was he living in Germany?
He lived in Germany. He lived in Germany, and
did he reclaim part of the property?
No, he tried to, but he succeeded nothing. But he lived in a sanatorium. He was very, very ill. He was very ill, and he married. He had a daughter, and but he was, as I said, very ill, and he died very young. My other uncle, the younger brother of my mother, he went up with the American army up to the northern part of Italy, and he immigrated to the United States. It was in 1948. The Jewish agency collected a party of some young Jewish bachelors, flew them all to the United States. My uncle came to Portland, Oregon, and there he met a nice Jewish girl. They were married, and he lived there. He was called Henry Mendel. Mendel was the name of my mother's family, and he lived there until he visited Israel a few times. I have a cousin who lives now in Portland, Oregon, and he lived until he was, I think, 83 or 84. From my father's side, there's a very interesting story. My father, when the war broke in September 1939, my father was recruited to the Polish army, and where his unit was defeated very, very shortly after the war broke, and my father told me they all deserted. They threw away their uniforms and their weapons, and he ran away, flew. He was a few months in Budapest, in Hungary, and there then he went to Ljubljana, as I said in the beginning of my story. There he met my mother. But one of the brothers, my father had two brothers and two sisters, I think, I'm not sure, and one of his brothers was elder, was also in the Polish army. They were also defeated, deserted, and he joined a unit of the Anders, you know, the General Anders battalion. They made all the way from Poland through the eastern part of Russia and Persia, and they came to Israel in 1942. One of the members was Menachem Begin, but my uncle, he died in Persia, and he is buried in Tehran. In Tehran there is a military cemetery, and he is buried there. And my father, as I told you, he died in 1975. He was 60 years old. He died of cancer. And when he was in the last weeks or months of his life, he was very confused. And someday, I remember, and it is true, he said, I want to go to Persia. Then it was possible to go to Persia. There was, in 1975, the Shah was still the ruler of Persia. He said, I want to go to Persia to see my brother's grave. And it was impossible for him because of his physical condition. And I found all kinds of stories to finish this story. But I have an uncle who is buried in Tehran. But all the family of my father, they were all killed in the Shoah. No one of them.
No one survived.
No one survived. There is one story which is a very long story. My father had a sister, a young sister, and she married very young in 1935, before the war. She married with a Jewish guy from Slovakia, and she left home. She left home, her home in Poland, and she had two children. One of them was born in 1935, the other one in 1936, or maybe I'm wrong with 1 or 2 years. And the two babies were in Slovakia, not Slovenia, Slovakia, in Brno or in Bratislava somewhere, with their father and mother. And I think that the mother lost connection with the family. She lived there in Slovakia, and when the war broke, she and her husband died, and the two babies were taken by one of their uncles to a monastery, and they were kept in a monastery for a few years. After the war, they were kept like Christian boys. They were moved to France, and only in 1948 or 49 they came to Israel. both of them are real cousins of me. This is a story that you will hear about. It is more interesting, the whole story of Ferramonti. They came to Israel, and it was in 1949. They without parents, and their uncle from the father's side, not my father, which was from the mother's side, they were grown up in a pneumonia, in a boarding place in Kfar Hadassah or something. Never mind. They went to the army. It was in the 50s. They went to the army. They studied here in the Technion in Haifa. They are both engineers. But in the 70s, they immigrated to Canada, and they still live in Canada today, in Halifax, Canada. I have some kind of a connection. There was something in the family that was something bad happened in the family. It is some kind of a secret that I do not know the reason why there was a bad connection between my father and his two nieces, the sons of his mother. It's another story. There is a book about it.
You're still in contact with them? You have a...
Yeah. I have a contact, but there is something in the background which is not very easy to talk about. I do not know exactly what happened, but I think it is something connected with my father. He had something against those two boys. I do not know exactly the reason. But this is some kind of a tragedy which happened to families, to good people, during the Second World War and the Shoah and all the things that happened around it.
And can I ask your mother, did she have a good connection with her sister? They went to England.
Yes, this is something else. My mother had a very good connection with her sister, who went to England. She went, it was 1939, she married the sister who went to England. She was something about more than 20 years old, and she married very, very quickly with a guy, non-Jewish, I think, non-Jewish guy. She had a daughter, and they had a very good connection with letters. They wrote each other letters. My aunt from England, she was divorced from her first husband, and then she remarried and remarried again, but she had only one child. And she came to Israel to visit us in Binyamina. My mother went to visit her in England. She lived in Leeds, in the northern part of England. I also visited when I first went to Europe in 1968, when I was a student in the Hebrew University. I had my first visit to Europe, and I had to visit my aunt in Leeds. I spent a few nights with her. It was very, very nice for me. But my aunt, she was also very, very ill and she died in the 70s. And I know that my mother was in England when her older sister died. My mother was there with her. This is also a kind of tragedy, because my aunt, she lived in England, but she had, even as a young man, I knew that she had a very tough life in England.
And are you in touch with her the children, or?
No. This is again. I can tell you that the war divided families, and the way people looked at what happened in different ways. So I and my cousin, my cousin in England, I have no connection with her. I think that I have nothing common with her. And even she tried, when my mother died, it was 12 years ago, I got a letter from my cousin in England. She heard that my mother died. It was her aunt. And she wrote to me a very nice letter, but I didn't even reply. I did not even reply to it, because when I read her letter, between the lines, I understood that there was bad blood. It is a tragedy, because I am now 82. My cousin, who lives in England, is 83. She is 1 year older than me. And the fact that we have no connection is not right. It shouldn't be like this. But I do not have the strength now to reopen old injuries. I do not have the energy now to start all over again, to speak about what happened to those two sisters, my mother and her mother. I do not know what really happened there. And this is it. And the same thing is with my cousins from my father's side. I know that my father was very angry with his two sons of his sister. I do not know the background. My father didn't speak about it at all. And although I have a very minimal connection with my cousins in Canada now, one of them is 83, the other one is 89, and in Pesach and in Rosh Hashanah they make a telephone call, they speak with the telephone, once with me, once with my brother, but nothing more.
And do they ever come and visit?
Yeah, they came to visit. I saw them. It was very polite, of course. They were polite. We spoke about everything that is possible to speak without going down to the roots of everything, because the roots are bad. There were some things, again, I repeat it, the war created many tragedies in the families, in the families. Not all was so good and heroic.
And can I ask, Tzvi, have you ever gone back to Ferramonti?
No, I
Do you
didn't.
have a desire to go back?
I think that now I have, it is not a desire, but it is curiosity. Because now in Ferramonti, as you know less, what Dina Smadar told you about Ferramonti, there's nothing there, but a small museum, and the whole story of Ferramonti here in Israel is not a heroic story. There is no heroism there in Ferramonti. There was no war, no Germans, no penalties, no deaths, no nothing. So until now, I think that it is a mistake from my side not to visit Ferramonti, as did my friend Dina Smadar. But as I said, without criticism, she is obsessive about Ferramonti. And she can talk about Ferramonti for hours. And but the picture that the stranger gets about Ferramonti when you hear Dina is different from the real situation which I think was there.
Because your parents, they suffered and
They suffered.
Did they speak a lot about Ferramonti?
They spoke nothing about Ferramonti. Nothing
It's
about
different.
Ferramonti. Because they suffered. My mother and my father were less energetic and more passive people in their character. And those people who were more passive suffered more.
Did your father work when he was in the camp?
He worked, I do not know exactly what he did there. I do not exactly know.
And your mother?
My mother did not work. There was nothing for her to do there. And as I said, my parents' friends were all from Ferramonti, all of them, and they met, when we lived in Kiryat Motzkin between 1952 to 1955. It was 3 years that we lived in Kiryat Motzkin. And some of our neighbors were friends of my parents from Ferramonti. And they met once every 4 weeks, listen carefully, every 4 weeks they met in one of the apartments they had. It was Friday night, and what was the celebration? To eat a good meal. To eat a good meal. This was the celebration. They wanted to, this was the revenge against Ferramonti. And today I know what did they eat. They had a very simple meal with some salads, soup, and chicken. But this was all. But this was a celebration for them, because in Ferramonti, they did not have food, and the lack of food made them all crazy, I think. They behaved in a very abnormal way because of the lack of food. I can say that my father more than my mother. My father got what we call now a post-trauma because of the lack of food during the 4 years they spent in Ferramonti. All his behavior, all the years that I remember here, him, until he died in 1975, it was all connected with the problem of lack of food in Ferramonti. They did not speak about it, but I felt it, even as a boy.
You have pictures of when you came to Palestine. It was British Palestine. They're wonderful pictures.
Yeah, I will show you. This is me and my young brother. He was born in 1946. He is 1 year old here. I'm 4 or 5. This is my parents. And here we can see a picture. This is a very important picture. You have it?
Yeah.
This is my father. This is one of the friends of my father. He was called Akiva Schwartz. He died a few years ago. He was a neighbor of my father and mother in Ferramonti. This is me, and here is Akiva's son. He was born in Ferramonti, 1944, came to Israel, lived next door to us in Kfar Bialik, but he died in 1950 when there was a polio epidemic here in Israel. And this boy died, he was 6 years old. 6 years old. And this Akiva Schwartz he was, I will tell you when you close the video. Akiva Schwartz was a very, very special man. And after his only son died, he and his wife decided to have a daughter, and the daughter was born in August of 1950. She lives now, and you will meet her. I'm sure you will, because she knows things even more than I do. And so I repeat, my father, Akiva Schwartz, myself, and Peter, who was born in Ferramonti, 1944, but died from the polio in Kiryat Motzkin, 1950.
And there's a picture with your mother, with you and your brother.
Yeah, this is my mother, this is me, and this is my young brother, 1950.
And were your parents happy here in Israel?
I will tell you, they were happy when they saw us, the children, grow up and make well in school and go. I went to the university. My brother married very, very early, and he had a grandchild, and my father lived to see his grandchild, and he died when the grandchild was 1 year old. Yeah. This is my nephew. He lives now. He is 53 now. 53 now, and he was 2 years old when my father died. And my parents were happy here. My father was worked in the railway, in Rakevet, in Israel. He was a very good man, and he was a station master in Binyamina, a very respected job. He was a very respected man in Binyamina until he died 15 years, 20 years later. My mother was a very good cook, was a very friendly woman, and she had lots of friends. And when we lived in Binyamina, Binyamina was a moshava with a community of German Jews who fled Germany. They were clever. They fled Germany before the war, 1936, and they had a whole neighborhood in Binyamina called even today the Shchunat Hayekim in Binyamina. And when my mother came, she had good friends in Binyamina, and then she went to Netanya after my father died. They were happy, but I think that when I saw my parents in events that they had to be very, very happy, they were happy, but not very, very happy, because all the time, I'm sure that all the time they thought about their parents and their sisters and their friends back in Poland and in Germany.
And Tzvi, can I ask you, when you were growing up, did any of your friends ask you about you being a Nitzalei HaShoah, you being a survivor, that you were born in a camp in Italy?
I tell you this.
Did anybody ask you? Or?
I tell you this. To be a Holocaust survivor in the state of Israel in the 50s, 60s, and
difficult.
Even 70s, it was not a great. It was the Holocaust survivors, especially in the 50s, were not respected so much. They were all regarded by the Israelis who lived here in Palestine and fought in the Milchemet HaShichrur, in the Independence War. All those who survived the Shoah were regarded as passive people who did not fight, ran away all the time. And when they came to Israel, they were not respected. Only in the last 30 or 40 years, when the grown-up survivors of the Holocaust died, and those who spoke were the second generation. Now we can speak, the second generation, can speak more freely about what happened. But nobody gave me any advantage of being a Holocaust survivor.
And did your friends know that you were?
I do not. I do not
speak
think.
to them about it?
No, I do not think. I think that there are many friends of me, even today, they do not know that I was born in a camp during the Second World War. Most of them think that I was born here in Israel because I behave like a sabre. But as I tell you, to be a Holocaust survivor, it was not a great fortune in those years, in the early years of the state of Israel.
And Tzvi, did you speak to your children about your experiences?
I do not have any children. I was married very, very late, so I do not have children, but I regard my the children of my brother. He had two boys, two grown-up boys, and with them, I tell you this, they are not interested. They are almost not interested in what happened. I tell them stories about it, but they hear it, they are very polite, they listen, they do not stop me, but they are not very much interested. Two of my nieces, of my sons of my brother, went to Poland to the camps when they were in high school, when they were 16 or 17. I think that it made nothing to them. They did not. Maybe it is a personal problem. But today, to speak with youngsters, with the boys or the even young men of 20, 30, 40, it is not the first thing that it makes them it is not the first thing that makes them interested.
And have you spoken at any events or Zichron B'Salon?
No. I do not feel that I have enough to say about the Holocaust. All those events of Zikaron B'Salon, it belongs to those who were there and have evidence from first hand. I have only stories from my parents, which did not speak so much. All I know, or most of the things that I know about the Holocaust, is from books that I read or from people that I meet, but I do not think that I am fit to speak about it.
You really are? No.
This is... I know.
You were born in the middle of the war.
I was only born.
You're a survivor.
Yeah, I was only born, but there, even people of my age, which were born not in Ferramonti, not in southern Italy, but those who were born in Germany or in Poland, in the camps, even after the war. I think they suffered more than me, because I do not remember anything bad that happened to me when I was a baby or a child.
And I think your parents protected you as well by not speaking about it. They wouldn't have a normal life.
Yeah. First of all, they had no stories of heroism or something to tell, and then they wanted to. They said, we suffered in Ferramonti in those years. We suffered because our parents died. We suffered because we left our families in 1940. But it's nothing of your business, of our business. And we wish that they tried to give us the situation, to give us a situation that we will succeed in school and in the university, in the army, and in our careers and everything. Shoah is not. They thought that the Shoah and the World War II is nothing of our business.
That's what you can ask. What message do you impart to the future generations, to the future?
But I think my message is that young people of today must know about what happened in the Shoah, about what brought the terrible things that happened in Europe only 80 years ago. A very respected cultural nation like the Germans, what they did, how they fell to believe in a dictator called Adolf Hitler. What happened to this nation? We have to know about it. Do not have to give an opinion of if it was right or wrong, or what could have been the situation if they did something else. But we have to know the facts about it. And to know the facts is to listen to those who were there. And today we have books and we have the internet, we have films about it. The young generation of Israel, 1925, has to know at least the facts of what happened there in the World War II.
And what we see today, what's happening, that it's the never again is happening again. We're seeing the anti-Semitism, the rise in anti-Semitism.
I think that there is no connection with what happened in World War II.
Because it's not we can make a slight comparison, but it's.
I think that what happens today in America or in Europe, the anti-Semitism has nothing to do with what happened in the World War II. World War II is a tragedy of the whole world. You cannot blame anyone but the Germans about it. What happens today has nothing to do with it. The way that we handle our state today is our business. We cannot make any comparison with what happened then. This is my message.
Okay, thank you so much.
This is my mother. She was interviewed by Yad Vashem in, it was 15 years ago, when she was when she was 90 years old. She refused Yad Vashem all the years. They got her address and telephone, contacted her, I know, at least 20 years, and she refused. She said, I have nothing to say, my story is very uninteresting, and leave me alone. But once she told me that she refused, I said, why? Your story is not so interesting, but if they want to hear it, let them hear it. Why? Okay, so she agreed, and but she wanted that Dina Smadar will sit with her in the room. So Dina Smadar sitting somewhere here, and my mother, when she doesn't know what to say, she looks at Dina, and Dina whispers something, and she said here things that I did not know. Here she says, she tells the story about her flight from home to Ljubljana. It was very complicated. I never heard it. I heard it only on the tape that Yad Vashem initiated.
It must have been quite fascinating for you to hear your mother speak about it.
But you know that she did it, and I was not with her when Yad Vashem was there and interviewed her, and it was in 2009, and I listened to the tape only after she died. And I think, I'm not sure, that she told me that she doesn't want me to hear the story
While she's still alive.
Yeah, it was very complicated. You know, Les, it is not so easy. It is not so easy to put those people opposite a video camera and tell the story.
It's very difficult.
It is very, very difficult.
Extremely.
And she is an example of the attitudes of the Shoah survivors toward telling the story, telling the true story. Because in many cases, I suspect that the story people tell is not exactly what happened.
You have a picture at the very end where your mother shows the pictures.
Yeah, okay. In a moment I will find it.
And how was your reaction when you did see it after your mother passed away?
I was not surprised, because I think that most of the things I didn't know the details, but I knew the spirit of the things. And she says here many times that she wanted to have connection with her family when she fled to Yugoslavia in the first year of the war. In 1940, she wanted all the time. They wrote letters to each other, and it makes me even more sure that the fact that she at last had to leave her parents and to go to Italy, to fly to Italy, all the way to Italy, it made her very, very sad, I'm sure. I find the pictures.
But in a way, by doing that, she survived.
Yeah.
In hindsight, she survived.
This is right.
שלא אפשר, תראה, זה עד היום קשה להאמין, דווקא הגרמנים, עם תרבותית, ואת היהודים היה להם תפקיד די גדול בקולטורה, בתרבות הגרמנית, כן? איך הם היו יכולים לעשות את זה?
In a moment you will see the picture.
לפעמים לא תופסת. מה שאני כן חושבת, אם ההורים אולי היו שרים שם באושץ, היו עוזרים לו, שכולם הכירו אותנו, כן? אז מישהו היה אולי חיבה אותנו. מחביא אותנו. אבל זה כבר לא היה, כן? הם היו כבר... אני לא בטוח אם היה מישהו, אבל אני לפעמים חושבת, שם אולי היה מישהו שהיה עוזר, כן? שהגיעו אותנו כל החיים והיו ביחסים טובים, כן? זהו, ככה זה.
ואלי, אני מאוד מודה לך, תודה רבה.
בסדר.
Now you have the pictures.
Okay.
כן, זה ההורים שלי, ואח הגדול, ואח השני, ושם אחותי, כל המשפחה בעצם, כן? עוד באושץ.
מה קרה להורים שלך?
בבקשה?
מה קרה להורים
So this
שלך?
is your mother's parents.
זה להגיד גם, יצבו בשואה, אח הגדול נפטר גם, וגם אחותי כבר, רק אני שרתי עם האח הצעיר. ואחותי קטנה עם ההורים, הנה. היא שמה בתור ילדה יותר קטנה, זה אולה, זה אחותי הקטנה.
מה קרה לאחותי?
The young sister of my mother.
כן. אז זה את התמונה בימין הזה,
זה לובליאנה.
באושץ,
למעלה מימין.
כן. וזה שניים האלה זה בלוביאנה כבר שהיינו, כן.
מצד שמאל למעלה ולמטה?
כן, זה בלוביאנה. שם זה אח שלי הצעיר, ושם זה גיטה, זה חברה של הבת של דינה.
This is Dina's mother.
זה למעלה, זה ימין זה בפרמונטי, ושמאלה זה עוד בלוביאנה.
On the left is Ljubljana.
למטה זה, שמאלה זה גם בפרמונטי, וגם את הימין בפרמונטי. שתלנו תפוח אדמה. אז זה בפרמונטי, צביקה בתור תינוק. כמה חודשים.
והתמונה הזאתי?
התמונה הזאת היא כבר פה בארץ. זה שם למטה זה אמא של הכלה ואני, בצד הזה הבן הגדול ימין, ואחר כך את הילדים שצביקה, ואת השני זה הבן של כלתי, וכלתי באמצע עם השמלה האדומה, ושני הנכדים שלי. כן, זה המשפחה של הבן הצעיר.
This is my brother.
כלתי והבן, אני למטה, זקנה, ושם כלתי, הבן ושלושה נכדים. אבי, גל ואור.
This one,
כן, זה יערה, את הנינה שלי, המותי.
she's going now to the army.
Wow.
That's it.
Tzvika, thank you so much.
You can take this.
So Tzvika, I want to thank you so much. It's been such a special time here, hearing your story, being in your home, and I'm so privileged to be here today. And I want to thank you really from the bottom of my heart. I'm so grateful to you. I think you are incredible. It's coming from your heart, and your story is so about what you went through. You're so positive, and I just think it's amazing. And your parents, they did what they could, and I think they succeeded. They really did.
Thank you. I think that Les, what you do is also very, very important, and everyone you interview gives more information and another aspect of what happened there, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to you.
Thank you.